Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Caregiver Teleconnection from the WellMed Charitable Foundation. We're having a session today that is called Caregivers, Time to Say Goodbye, How to Eliminate Toxic People from Your Life. And I am pleased and honored to introduce Dr. Jamie Huysman, who's going to tell us a little bit about himself and start rolling.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. I am so pleased to be here and to be able to speak on such a very important topic, literally for society, because it's a very misunderstood concept, even in my world of psychology. Caregivers are tremendously powerful in our culture. There's 45 million, I think, dealing with neurological issues, another 40 million dealing with parents or special needs kids. And everywhere we go, we have challenges. It's a marathon, not a sprint, right? Taking care of others, certainly taking care of ourselves. We're not really prepared often to deal with what I call toxic, abusive relationships that come along in this world. And they're just truisms, okay? They're clinical issues that are totally misunderstood. So today I'm going to start a series, okay? Let me level set on expectations. Today, toxic abusive relationships, or TAR, and I'm sure you can relate because I'm sure everybody has stepped into TAR somewhere along the way. But in saying goodbye to toxic people in your life, that's part one. Next month, if you join, I'm going to do part two, is how actually after you said goodbye to go from hell to heaven, how to deal with healing from this, because it's a very difficult process. But today I want to make you aware. Next month, I'd like to work on transformation. So let's start. TAR, toxic abusive relationships. It feels sludgy. It feels dark. It feels like something when you stick your feet into, you get stuck. When you hear concepts of tar baby, you hang on it. You can't let go of it, right? So let me start with the fact of this concept, which we talked about before, which is the mask. Okay, what is it like to wear a mask year round? Well, we all know that most of us all wear it just once, I hope, a year. That's for Halloween, which is my favorite holiday in the world. But newsflash, the American Psychological Association says that literally 1 of 8 people wear it 24/7, 365 days out of the year. And it covers a very clinically challenging issue that many people aren't aware of, okay? Which is literally toxic, abusive people. So today I wanted to talk about, and again, this is around people in general, but caregiving, I'm going to try to interject along the way. Next month, we'll even get into it deeper, but this is about cutting emotional attachments to toxic relationships. Now, as a caregiver, it's very difficult to cut an emotional attachment from somebody you're taking care of. So I'm going to delineate between really having no contact and modified contact. And modified contact, I'm more or less going to start working on next month, so don't get your expectations up. This is a long topic, but something that we desperately need to understand. So let me ask you if you're in the right place at the right time, okay? Did you sign into the right? Well, let's say times you could be in a toxic relationship. If you've got a person, a family member, a partner, anybody that you are encountered that makes you feel bad, okay? Literally that picture, walk on eggshells. People that don't make an effort in your life, that don't meet you halfway. People that rather see you fail, score your failures, okay? People literally, you can't say no. Sometimes they're in a bully way. Some may emotionally, physically abuse. Some may be passive aggressive, but they belittle us. So are you in the right place at the right time? And I know Evelyn said questions and answers, but that's going to be a little challenging, right? Because there's so much to cover. So in the reaction room, I don't know. I did this presentation yesterday for all of our employees. If you have hearts or you have hands and things that you can do in the chat, do it that way. I always love to know why. I want you, if you have a thumbs up or can put in the chat room, what I mentioned, those indicators, show me a thumbs up if you know a toxic person, okay? You don't have to talk about it. I just want you to know if you're in the right space at the right time, right? That's rhetorical. We meet them everywhere, but we just don't know who they are. So I'm going to ask you, and I don't want you to go too deep into the pain, but I am a trauma therapist. Evelyn asked me to introduce myself. I'm a psychologist. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I am a trauma certified therapist. And At the end of the day, I've been in this field for about 30 years. I began the Lisa Gibbons Memory Foundation. Prior to that, I was on television for 20 years, working with people who needed help. And today I'm Chief Compassion Officer for WellMed Medical Management. And I'm really pleased because in some ways I can create programs, and they're trauma-informed programs that deal with people who meet toxic people. It's a personal legacy love, because you see that little child on my shoulder there? It's not about me anymore. It's about her. Okay, I'm an AARP daddy, and we have to break the cycle. We have to do it for our children. It has to start with us. So if you're in the right place, let's see at the right time. Let's determine if you are. You may have a person that you tuned in for. Okay, you may have a why you tuned in for it. So let's take about 10 seconds. I'm a trauma therapist. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, put your feet on the ground, and go inside yourself. And you all tuned in, knowing the title of this is Toxic People and How to Terminate Those Relationships. Go inside and think why you came or who you came for, okay? Their eyes closed now. I click my fingers. Let's go down just simply for 10 to 15 seconds and try to find that reason, starting right now. Okay, let's come back and open our eyes. Maybe you found something, maybe you didn't. I don't want you to stay in that painful place too long. But the reason why I do that is codependency is external. It means we get our yayas and self-esteem from people, places, or things. Internal motivation is better. It's like a river that runs within us. So if you have an inner sort of feel, a why, a purpose, and a dream, you're more likely to listen and more likely literally to use this lessons that we're about to talk about. So here's the foundation today, okay? Because I know all of us have empathy and accountability, but I don't want you to feel guilty for what's doing best for you right now, okay? Toxic people, I do not want you to feel guilty about it. I'm going to explain why. I have deep compassion myself, and I'll tell you that later, how and why. But you don't ever have to feel guilty about removing toxic people from your life, okay? It doesn't matter whether somebody's your relative, a romantic interest, an employer, childhood friend, new acquaintance. In our group of caregiving, sometimes it's the caree, and there is modified contact and strategies to deal with. But you don't have to make room for people who cause you pain purposefully or make you feel small. If one thing, if a person owns up to the behavior and is accountable and says, I made a mistake, let's work together, okay? But if a person disregards your feelings, ignores your boundaries, continues to treat you in an emotionally harmful way, they need to go. And there's ways to allow them to go. And sometimes it's no contact, but I know in caregiving, it may be different. Or if you have a child with somebody, it may be different, it's modified, but we'll deal with that more next session, next month. Okay, stay tuned. All of us have masks, right? If I'm using the mask analogy that we change, the Japanese said it best. Basically, we have three faces. First face, you show the world. The second face, you show to your close friends and your family. Third face, you never show anybody, right? It's the truest reflection of who you are. So in the case of a toxic person, the number 3 is always the case. That means, gosh knows, they don't want anybody to understand who they are. So they wear that mask, and it's 364 days or 5 days now, if you include Halloween. And they're always going to be there. They don't want anybody to see the true reflection. So they'll create an image. If you see that picture there, they'll be juggling masks, okay? There is this tragically poor, clinically challenged person that actually did not get the right parenting. There's a person who's 100% masks an image, and then there's somebody else I call the executioner. We'll get into that. But here's how it's formed. I want you to have compassion first for this toxic person, because up until you're 18 years old, you are a child. Parents should have taken care of you better. They should have had a better attachment, okay? We all of us have attachment issues. Okay, let me clear that up, including myself, okay? We all came from parents that didn't know totally what to do, kind of, you children should be seen and not heard, put us in corners, maybe had corporal punishment. Whatever happens, we come out with different attachment styles. So as a therapist, I may have somebody with a secure attachment, meaning they felt very good with their primary caregiver, they got unconditional love, fair, consistent, and available, and they were allowed to be authentic. They could say what they want to say no matter what and not be punished for it. Then there's the avoidant attachment style, people who literally kind of feel that their needs weren't totally met, and they often felt rejected. They suffer from emotional isolation. That's that. We come out with these styles, okay? We don't necessarily come out with the pathology or diagnosis, but we come out as an ambivalent person. We don't know how to attach ambivalently, or we're disorganized. But these are natural. And the attachment theory, who Dr. John Bowlby, and I use his quote here, he captured this attachment theory. They're not disorders. They're all of us. It's like learning disabilities, right? There's a continuum, right? We can all have a little bit. The narcissistic stage of development, we all went through. Some of us went through it differently. But life is best organized as a series of daring adventures from a secure base. So if your childhood was secure, unconditional love, good parenting, fair, consistent, available, okay? You were allowed to be authentic, chances are you have a secure base. But most of us did not. When you come out of a chaotic home that has alcoholism, or you have addictions, or you have things you can't count on as a child, okay, you're a blank slate, you come out with what we call complex PTSD, which is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay, stick with me. I'm going to try to make this as simple as I can, but I want you to have compassion, because no child wants to be evil. No child wants to be toxic. But we come out from parenting that's not necessarily the parenting we needed or had to get, with the fight, flight, freeze response. Means our minds kind of default when we're in this kind of place and we're scared and something's up. And as a child, we didn't feel 100% supported. You know, it was kind of the fight or kill sort of philosophy. We would go into fight, flight, freeze, or the fourth F, which is part of childhood PTSD, fawning. Now, I came out fawning, okay? I had a disorganized childhood, there was high conflict. I came out the hero child. So as caregivers, we may have heard these codependency roles, hero, lost child, whatnot. Many of us came out as heroes, and that's our downfall in caregiving, right? Because we put other people's needs first. We don't take care of ourselves. So the fawning response is part of childhood, sort of complex PTSD. They're all we call trauma responses. But I want you to understand this concept of CPTSD, and I believe the CPTSD Foundation is powerful. I'm on their advisory board, and I want us to use them later as a resource, but they have the best definition. When the last 10 years of your life trigger the first 10 years of your life, that's CPTSD. So your fight, flight, freeze, and fawn will come out in the adult way. Today, I have a program, emotional support program at WellMed, and I work with our employees, but I think they're coming out with the children responses, because we say in psychology that we're doomed to recreate our dramas and traumas until we intervene on them. So if we haven't gone to treatment or gotten therapy or gotten self-awareness, chances are we still have the child mind, even at 70 and 80 years old, okay? So we never lose this fight, flight, freeze. And complex PTSD is the reason, is the answer. So here's the toxic personality, right? Period. I'm just going to gloss over this. You're obviously in the right spot. But to keep that image, to have it 365 days, they have to lie. They have to tell people. They can't be authentic. I'm frail. I'm not, Superman. I can't do this. They can't honor the vulnerability and ask people in and then learn from it. So they're unable to be completely truthful about anybody. Okay. Many of them go and have a secret life. They're extremely egotistical, right? They believe they're above the rest of humanity. They're arrogant. They know better. They don't accept responsibility for actions. They really can't. Neurologically, they can't. So they can't say, I made a mistake. I can't say I did fall. No. It's always somebody else. Okay. They're vindictive, remorsefully when challenged, even slightly. When somebody gets under that image, that's it. You're done. It's like the CIA. If you know too much, we have to kill you. I know people I've worked with that 25 years later, they hadn't seen their partner at all. They would come to a wedding of their child, and literally the person would be just as vindictive and angry because they can't do anything about it. So moral values are absent in their life. They really don't have empathy for others. And really, at the end of the day, if you don't, then you really can't understand anybody. And I will tell you later, values, and I really mean this, are the antidote. I'm going to get to it, to the toxic personality. So here's the implication. Some people are sicker than others. There's a spectrum, I'm trying to say. Okay, a healthy narcissism, the whole country is getting more narcissistic, right? Social media and whatnot. So it's all about us. It's all about these bizarre images. But there's a healthy narcissism, and then we can adapt. That means we went through the narcissistic stage. Our parents were nice, sweet, and they're always there unconditionally, and we're allowed to be honest. Then there's the codependency, where you came out more like me. You don't know what's going on because it's kind of stable narcissism, but it's codependency. Then there's this destructive narcissism, the unstable. But what we're going to talk about more here, because I'm not asking anybody to terminate relationships. Really, if somebody's got any accountability or anybody's any empathy, I'm a psychologist. I believe in the resilience of the human spirit. Okay. But we're going to talk about the pathological narcissist here, because that's the one I think we all need to say goodbye to. And they're wearing that mask all the time. And that group is we call the cluster Bs. So we have 5 things, 5 axes we call them in as a psychologist. Okay, medical doctors will have a CPT code. We are behavioral scientists. This is true stuff. We have the DSM-5, Diagnostic Statistical Manual. That's pretty cool, but it's also our diagnosis manual. So I'm not going to ask you to say goodbye to anybody unless they fall into what I call the cluster B. And if you look at the right, diagnosis there is antisocial, borderline, histrionic, and narcissistic. All of them share very similar characteristics, though they act out in different ways. I am very much involved in an organization that I clinically kind of head up called the TAR. It's called really the TAR Network, Toxic Abusive Relationship Network. And literally, we deal so much with empaths and partners who come from relationships with the antisocial, borderline, histrionic, narcissistic. And these are people who really take it hard. And these are really like you and anybody else that comes up with a toxic place. And so we ended up calling collectively this group of 4, right? The histrionic, the antisocial, the borderline narcissist, the energy vampires. Okay. They can sap our energy. We have a finite amount of energy. We're caregivers, professional caregivers, family caregivers. We need our energy to help ourselves, help others. But when we get stuck in a relationship with one of these 4, they suck the literally energy out of us. And I'll show you how and why. And I only wish they were this easy to spot. And that's why today I'm going to identify them for you and show you how to get out. So I don't know, you can put in the chat, you can put me a heart. I don't know if this program will do it like our others, but if you want, you can confirm. Do you know an energy vampire in your life? Literally somebody who you get around and literally this sucks your energy out. Okay, because remember, the definition of a relationship is to literally meet people halfway. Okay, when somebody works harder than the other, forget it. Okay, they become a vampire and then burnout ensues. So let me give you the modus operandi before you say goodbye, or I give you any tools to say goodbye. These are toxic people. I want you to know how to identify the 4 without becoming a psychologist like me, a clinician like me. Okay, you don't have to. And that's why I'm here, to try to help you identify them. Okay. The diagnosable, we call the cluster B. And again, if I remind you here, look at the left, antisocial, borderline, histrionic, narcissistic. They come from what we call attachment disorders. It's not the attachment continuum. These are people highly wounded, highly went through hell during a certain stage in their life. They came out with the kill or be killed piece. Okay. The picture I use the most is the mask you see to the right, because that mask hides somebody with very low self-esteem, somebody who really never really was looked at, didn't care about themselves, that if they're left alone by themselves without people around them to utilize or manipulate, or without, let's say, lights, camera, and action, they sit by themselves. They're very afraid. They're very fearful. They're very depressed. Sometimes they're suicidal. They are very much high on the addiction scale because there's nothing there. Okay. It's all a mask. It's all that. So that's why I use this picture. But let me give you the things that you're going to see in them. Okay. Whether you're a caregiver, whether you're a partner, whether you had a mom or dad. Okay. Doesn't matter. Here is the modus operandi I want you to see. Love bombing. Okay. Listen, love bombing involves continuous bombing of a partner with flattery, compliments, and affections, okay? This attention goes in various ways. It can be dumping gifts and roses, a long-winded way of saying things to you. I mean, it's not about them being altruistic. They usually want to hear praise and adoration from the other person. And at the end of the day, they give their partners, a ton of stuff, hoping that there's something coming back. I'll explain that later. It's pretty transactional. But love bombing, if you've got somebody who just wants to love bomb you and believe, because of that love bombing, they're going to make you theirs, understand this, that hate bombing always comes after love bombing. Okay. Love bombing is the first way a toxic person, especially, has their claws into you. So I don't know if you know a love bomber, if you want to put in the chat room, if this is resonating at all for you, we're really on the right track. Just trying to get you to identify those people. The second thing they all do is they gaslight you, meaning to keep that image there so you don't get near them, and not to take responsibility for things, right? Because they can't. They have to project out. They have to blame somebody. They have to say it's somebody else's fault, right? They do what's called gaslighting. Now, gaslighting is about 5% truth or 10% truth. I'll go that far. And 90% BS, 90% lies. So take a kernel of truth. Somebody has a memory issue, okay, but they're pretty okay. They're mild cognitive impairment. And they'll blow it up and become the person that knows everything, the medical doctor, and they'll get their needs met. Gaslighting, okay, basically involves the abuser questioning the authenticity of the person's memory in front of them. Okay, gaslighting involves a ton of denial, withholding, okay, and pretending not to understand what the person being abused is trying to say. It's like word salad, okay? Gaslighting diverts instead of taking responsibility, okay? Basically, they brainwash people. It's a deal, just like that picture says, okay? I've got a piece of tape that's going straight into your brain, okay? And there's a movie. I'd like you to all rent it one day. It's called Gaslight. It's a powerful movie. And it's about a husband that turns the lights down slowly on his partner. Eventually, she goes crazy. Gaslighting is a crazy making. It's word salad, and it's a great tool of the toxic person. Guess what? Next modus operandi, no empathy. No empathy at all. And that's neurologically happens at a young age. Okay, so what's empathy? It's the power to understand, imaginatively enter another person's feelings. Yes, none of that. How on earth can you do a relationship with somebody if you can't understand their feelings? Okay, empathy is also identifying with understanding another situation, their feelings and motives, their culture, what they just came from. Guess what? With no empathy, that person cannot. These are the cluster Bs. Now, they come in images, so it's very difficult to find them. They're in our organization, they're in your organization, they're everywhere. The 1 out of 8, think of that number. That's over 35 million people in the United States, okay? That's why I want you to be mindful, very mindful of the modus operandi. The second is they have no accountability. They can't. And guess what? In a relationship with anybody, in a community, at work, with your loved one, with your caree, without personal accountability, we can't grow. We can never improve ourselves, okay? With no accountability, we push it off. We never can say, aha, my bad, I can learn something. So all of them. And this is, again, I'm identifying those that I think you need to say goodbye to, not those on the continuum. So do you know anybody that blames, that doesn't say I take responsibility for something, that I can meet you halfway? Maybe I made a mistake. All right, it's rhetorical. I just throw these in to keep you awake. The next thing is bullies. They are bullies. A toxic person has to, if they have no accountability, no empathy, well, guess what they have to do? They have to bully their position into you, okay? They oscillate, hear me out, okay, between two very effective roles in their life with you. That's a victim and a martyr, okay? So if you're not taking responsibility, I can learn and grow, but I can jump in the victim mode. Look what you did to me. Look what they did to me. Or martyr, look what I do for everybody. Without accountability, that's what they default to. So with my daughter, everybody knows, I guess it tunes in, I'm an ARP daddy. And I try to teach her about human behavior based upon bullies at her school. And I tell them they have very low self-esteem, baby. If they're calling you names, right? They're doing it because they're fearful themselves. You know who you are. This is what a bully is. Now she's going everywhere and saying, Daddy, I think I found this bully in this adult, because she understands more what a toxic person is. So toxic people project their character defects. When you start understanding what I'm trying to mention here, you're going to know who they are, because their projection basically is accusing you, the victim, of their exact actions, but they deny it, okay? They deny it. I'm always going to use probably Putin and Ukraine, because there's another place, his entire country, okay? No matter what, no matter what, is in a state of denial, and he bullies them into this, and there's no accountability. But he's a malignant narcissist, and I'll get deeper into that next time we meet. The next thing is they're all transactional relationships. Okay, so if you're a caregiver and you got a loved one in Washington or Chicago, and they are somewhat toxic, it's not like they're going to meet you halfway and say, let's take care of dad and mom, and we're all going to be together, right? Kumbaya. No. It's usually what's in it for me today. Toxic person, because they don't have the emotional capability, is not a relational lover. They won't meet you halfway in the heart way and intention. Realize we're just frail humans, vulnerable, who can grow, who can transform. Okay. No, they see everybody as the next step, the next goal, the next promotion. Okay. Whatever it is, the next level of status. Everybody's transaction. That's true, because why? If you don't have a heart and empathy and accountability, you have to become transactional. So that is the group of those cluster Bs. Again, over 30 million in our culture alone, 1 out of 8 around the world, and maybe more. Attachment disorders are higher in the East. So, but why is it time to say goodbye to them? And we've put up with so much, right? We became part of the culture. Sometimes you can't see the forest because of the trees. But here's why. We all know how important it is to give our bodies and our lives a break from toxic food, right? Drugs, alcohol. Why don't you give yourself a break from a toxic attitude, from a bully, from somebody who emotionally put you down, right? It's time to say goodbye, because just like food and poison, they're dangerous, okay? The body keeps the score. Your mind can do anything, but your body is going through, the adrenal glands are on overtime. The cortisol level is ridiculous. Your inflammation based upon stress around them as you walk on eggshells, your body is getting affected. So remove them from your life. It's also time to say goodbye, because guess what? They're stuck in the past. They're focused on the negative, okay? They can't move forward because they just don't have those capabilities. They can't share in joy. A toxic person isn't happy when you do good. Toxic person will put you down when you get promoted. They're not happy for your accomplishments. So it's time to say goodbye. And listen, I always say this, and I thought this was perfect here. Don't let negative and toxic people rent space in your head. Okay? Loving yourself, realize you deserve better, raise the darn rent and kick them out. Okay? This is not a dress rehearsal. This is all we got our lives. So it's also time to say goodbye, because they cling. Listen, you are transaction, you are supply. They're going to cling. If you go away, you're going to trigger their abandonment issues. I'll talk about it in a minute. They need people to feed them, okay? Time to say goodbye, because they're going to make you feel guilty of everything you do, all right? They really will. They can do that well. They're very skilled, y'all. They're very skilled. They make it to high places in life because the image is something they can do well, okay? They need supply. They need your adoration. They need attention. And the saddest truth about them is really that when you're the target, okay, because they view empathy, they view compassion, they view love as a weakness. And if that's what you are, it's a weakness, and they can exploit it, okay? It allows them to, extract the supply, but also takes your energy. This is why they seem to hate you sometimes, but won't let you go easy. So here's how to let them go, okay? Identify the toxicity. I'm giving you a head start in that way right now. Okay, recognize the fact that it's harming you. It is medically harming. It's emotionally harming. And again, I know I got caregivers here, and they say, well, maybe my person I'm taking care of. And yes, it can be. And I'm going to ask you to hold until our next session, because there's so much to cover. And when I talk to you about getting out of this, I'll talk about the modified content. But here, identify it, say it, name it, and claim it. Okay, recognize it's hurting you. Okay, recognize that they've got a hard time owning any feeling and never will apologize to you. Okay, so understand that. So identify that. And identify also that it's bringing you down. No doubt you're cognitively impaired. You've gone through the gaslighting. Okay, it's not helping you grow. It's almost making you into a prisoner of war. I say toxic people are a distraction from our true purpose in life. So identify them as number one. How do you get rid of them again? Got to be firm, y'all. I stuck this in different colors. Why? We kind of do ups and downs. We're inconsistent. We give them a break, and they're even more inconsistent. Half the time they'll give you like food to eat, other times they'll take it away. So it's an inconsistency. If you want to say goodbye, you've got to stand firm. Okay. These toxins have to be met with a powerful force. Okay. Toxic people won't go away. They're going to hang in there. They got their claws in you, right? But be very, very clear about your intentions. Be very clear. I'm going to get into boundaries here, but very clear. Keep the necessary distance away. And again, for caregivers, I'll tell you totally how to do it next time. Make sure your message isn't construed. Say what you mean what you say. I know it's easier said than done, but when I deal with the next session, which I'm going to do with the Complex PTSD Foundation, let me tell you, there is such heaven in the healing process, and I'll tell you about there. But today, you want to get rid of one, stand firm. Number 3, stick to boundaries. Oh my gosh, I know it's tough, right? You got to stick with boundaries with long-term toxic people. They're going to see as a weakness. When you give in, you're done. When I do interventions with addicts and alcoholics, and they know that there's an uncle that'll put them on the couch when 5 people want to put them in treatment, oh, they'll figure who that uncle out is. If you don't stick with your boundaries and you show any weakness here, they're going to sneak back in your life. It's called hoovering. They're going to come back when you least suspect it. They're not going to change, y'all, okay? So understand that. And if you told yourself you wouldn't respond to their texts, guess what? You better not. Block their number, block them on all your social media, and figure out all the ways they can get to you, and do not allow it. Okay, that's no contact. Okay, that's no. Now, some of the people with modified contact, again, who have kids or have family members, that's going to be covered next month. Don't send them emails. Don't try to rationalize with them, okay? It feeds the beast. Don't do social media, and literally don't check in 6 months from now thinking things are going to change. So here's the gig about boundaries. Our genuine friends will not have a problem with us setting boundaries and limits because they want the best for us, okay? It's the users, those cluster Bs, the narcissist, the borderline, the histrionic, the antisocial, who will be life-sucking vampires. They'll have a problem with your boundary, okay, because they can't get in. All right. If you have a hard time with boundaries, go to YouTube. Go check out Dr. Brene Brown's work. She's phenomenal. She will help you with boundaries. She's also vulnerable. She gets to talk about her recovery, but she's great and she's all over. And get her books, and she's just perfect. When we fail, y'all, to set boundaries as caregivers, professional caregivers, and hold anybody accountable, we're always going to feel used and mistreated. Boundaries are critical. Don't feel guilty. All right. How you get rid of it too? How you get rid of a toxic person? Don't be too nice. I know you guys are nice. I'm a nice person too. I try to be, right? Sounds harsh. I'm sorry, but toxic people will take advantage of your kindness. Okay. And I remember in Streetcar Named Desire, poor Blanche, she wasn't doing too well. So I always depend upon the kindness of strangers. Blanche had a lot of clinical issues. But get this, do not be too nice. Realize they get their energy from draining your love. Okay. Dr. Mackey and I worked together for years. They thrive on trust and kindness. Stop going out of your way to be overly accommodating. Now, this is the tough part for me, okay, because I'm a therapist. Over the years, my burnout was mandated and dictated by the fact that I realized I can't save everybody, that I have to only be a part of transformational energy. So I'm going to say to you, how to get rid of a toxic person in your life is realize it's not your job to save them. If I can't do it with 30 years of clinical training, how can you? Toxic people are great at image making. They're great at showing up when they need something, okay? They're great. They'll ask for your shoulder to cry on. They'll give you the worst stories that probably are true because those are very damaged childhoods. But listen, they're all ploys, okay? You can't change it. I can't change it. You can't solve their problems. And guess what? It's not your responsibility. So when you say you cannot save everyone, some people are going to destroy themselves no matter how much you try to help them. I hate to say this clinically, it's true. Those 4 particular diagnoses, we don't have treatment programs that are good enough for them. It's not a question of rehabilitation. It's a question of habilitation. How do you teach somebody empathy? How do you teach them accountability? It's almost impossible. So you can't save them. Realize that. That's a way to dealing with it. All right. And now know that when it's done, it's done. Okay. when the Bible story, if you look back, you're going to turn into a pillar of salt, right? Don't look back. You're not going that way. You're going forward. And next month, I'm going to show you how many cool ways that caregivers, professional, family can go forward once we identify and start getting rid of this toxic people. Because toxic people will keep coming back if you let them. Okay? So when you say goodbye, make sure you're ready to make it permanent. Now, again, I have moms and dads that are the narcissists. I have brothers and sisters that are the narcissists. I have, families with kids going through parental alienation. There are exceptions, modified content. I'll talk about it next month. But understand it. If you could all help it, okay? Understand, don't look back. They're going to find a way to create the problem. We call it the tar pits at my charity, okay? The tar network. And that's toxic abusive relationship pits. They'll try to drag you into the drama. I'm going to talk about next time this concept called the gray rock theory. Well, it's more than a theory. It's a strategy of life. I want you to become a gray rock. I don't want you to jump into the drama pit. I always say to my patients, listen, here's the deal. Don't go fight with a pig, okay, in the mud. First of all, the pig likes it, and you're going to end up getting dirty. So there's no reaction here. You cannot jump in. The actual way you win is to be a counter puncher. You may lose every battle, but next month I'm going to tell you how to win the war. So if the toxic person's family, it's impossible to make the break. Again, I'm going to help you next month to figure that one out too. Okay, treat your separation like the breakup it is. 1 out of 2 marriages end in divorce. It's sad. Hopefully we've learned something and moved on. But we need relationships, okay? But we don't need every relationship. The ones that bring us down, the energy vampires. The more time you spend away from these people, the more time you have to do what we're going to do next month, which is heal. Okay, make time for yourself. This is really time to get friends that meet you halfway 50-50. This is time to get family members who are on the same page to help each other. It's not a time to isolate. You are cannon fodder, and they will destroy you if you isolate. Okay, don't rush in any kind of relationship when you do this termination process. Work on yourself now. We'll talk about it next month. Feel yourself, experience yourself, love yourself. Okay, you've been in a place where there's not been a lot of love. Do this first, and you're going to soon attract the special loving other. It won't be the love bombing style. Now, I must give you caveats. Those are ways to deal and get rid of. The caveats are, you're going to make them upset. Not them upset. You're going to make their behavioral condition upset. They're all expecting at a young age that abandonment, people are going to leave them. And guess what? Tragically, people do leave them. Why? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Nobody can hang in that toxic environment. Nobody wants to be abused. Nobody can take that. This ain't no dress rehearsal. The only life we got. So in psychology, and with a narcissist or borderline histrionic or antisocial, they create flying monkeys, somebody who does their bidding. So they're going to go out and do what we call, and I'll talk to you in a second, the smear campaign. They're going to do it clearly. Okay, they're going to get people to spy on you. They're going to get their family members to turn on you. They're going to spread gossip. They're going to do all this. They're going to call names. Listen, it's their MO. It's the playbook. If you know it ahead of time, there's ways to counter it, right? Don't hesitate to make these flying monkeys gone in your life, okay? Really, understand that. The most beautiful thing, if you want to go watch it over and over again, Wizard of Oz had the greatest analogy to this, where the Wicked Witch of the West was totally the narcissist, and how she created, that's how we got this, the flying monkeys. And Dorothy, of course, in that insane cognitive crazy world, found out, guess what? There's no place like home. That's the authenticity of our life. That's unconditional love. Then once you say goodbye, they're going to do this. They're going to create a smear campaign. They're going to deflect. They're going to project. They're going to create a smear campaign and a propaganda campaign, like Putin has done. Why nobody in Russia realizes it. They also all step over the line, like I said to you, that like Ukraine is Putin's stepping over the line. Okay, he knows that. They get too much. They go too far. But when you leave them, they're going to get the flying monkeys, and they're going to start the smear campaign, and that's lies. It's malicious stuff. They're going to go to anybody and everybody you know, and they're going to do that. Why? Because they can't look at themselves. And the smear campaign for them is the projection. It's the way to get back. This is why you have to be prepared. But this is why, again, in our healing, we go into what I call the TAR dojo at the TAR network, which is a place to learn how to deal with the smear campaign, right? How to deal with the flying monkeys. There are strategies as we heal our lives. So leaving a toxic relationship, be prepared, please be prepared. My website's out. I usually don't use it. It's called drjamie.com, drjami.com. Huge amount of resources there. I'll direct you to the Complex PTSD Foundation, to the Polyvagal Institute, but be prepared. Escaping a toxic relationship is like breaking a piece of your heart off. Propaganda and prisoner of war, like you feel like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. It's the Stockholm syndrome, y'all. Half the time they give you something, the other time the jailer takes it away. So what, like a wolf chews its leg off to escape, all right? You got to. Leaving is never easy, but sometimes it's necessary to save yourself and others from dying inside, okay? There's a lot of life, and at any given time, I don't care if you're 70, 80, 90 years old, this process is when it's done, and you're done with one of these and you're on the healing journey, you will thank the world. The one other nuance I have to mention before I get into emotional regulation here, because it's important for us to understand our bodies here as we leave, is this. There is a concept of parental alienation. with my families I work with, it's I call the worst emotional abuse and maybe the worst child abuse of all. And yes, I'm including physical, I'm including corporal, including, sexual, including any abuse possible. Parental alienation is death by 1,000 cuts to a child, right? Every time an alienating parent tells a child how horrible the other parent is, that parent's also telling the child that half of him or her is horrible. So what they tend to do beyond the smear campaign, beyond the flying monkeys, is they weaponize children. Once they're upset and so angry, right? They have to make their needs met. They have to make their point. They're actually proving it to a child, right? Which is tragic. And the emotional abuse is there. I bring in Justin here. I had the pleasure working out in LA, and I remember that was his big deal. And I'm thankful it was, because parental alienation is child abuse. We connect also at the TAR network and at drjamie.com with wonderful groups that are out there doing parental alienation work. And we're happy to send you there too. So that's a lot to take in. And I know you didn't expect all of that. And I'm glad you're here to hear it, because psychology is becoming aware, it's transforming, and it's finding self-love. And that's the process. So this month, I wanted you to become aware about the toxic person, how to get rid of this toxic person. Okay, that's just the first steps, okay? The transformational steps, and there are key ways in the Complex PTSD Foundation and us here at WellMed or either at drjamie.com will help you. But we're gonna help you heal your CPTSD, okay? The reason why people jump in these relationships far beyond the love bombing is also there's an unmet need in their life. And we're gonna talk about it next time. But complex PTSD has us looking at life a little differently. Instead of looking at a whole person, there are these people that somehow are I call mirages in their life. And so next month, we're going to talk about how to heal. And I'll bring the CPTSD Foundation in, and we're going to teach you controls that you can manage your feelings rather than them managing you. But the antidote to this whole process, to this whole group, I can give you today, and I'll give it to you next month. The best revenge is living well without you. Okay, I love that statement. It's healing, it's getting our life back and not needing this toxicity and putting these boundaries in place and going to the end of the rainbow. I'd like you to know when you're in healing from a CPTSD, you're actually in the middle of the rainbow and it's not at the end, but that's the best revenge. So the mantra today is the same mantra I leave you in this entire series. If you learned about identifying one of these, if you're learning how to let go, I want you to be calm and love yourself. I want you to be the family caregiver you are or professional caregiver you are. I want you now to start putting yourself first. You don't deserve emotional abuse. You don't deserve the bullying. Okay, but to do that, okay, like the book I wrote with Lisa Gibbons and Dr. Layer, you've got to take your oxygen first. You've got to under stressors in this world. And the FAA said it best, you have 19 seconds of useful consciousness once that plane hits the ground, and some people survive. You got to take your oxygen first now. It's about not feeling guilty. It's about doing the steps that we did, okay? And that is what we need to do to start moving beyond. So sometimes healing comes from helping someone that is going through the same trauma you went through. You're going to find out in your healing journey, you're going to help others. What I'm trying to do here is not as a therapist only, but I've also met toxic people in my life that had tremendous impact. We have to pay it forward for the children. It's not about us now. It is about us healing and being the corrective experience in the example. So I'm going to welcome into us the CPTSD Foundation. You can find them at my website, drjamie.com. You can also see the Polyvagal Institute. These are the trauma experts, and I'm very blessed and privileged to be a part of their advisory board. But if this stuff interests you really amount and something has come on, your light bulb, I'd like you to get the wisdom of trauma, and I'd like you to go to YouTube and look up Dr. Gabor Mate, Gabormate. He's got a handle on this, something fierce, and he can talk to you directly without psychobabble. So the antidote is literally that. Be kind to yourself, okay? This is a journey, and really a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So if lights are coming on, okay, you're feeling a little okay from the identification, understand this journey. The longest journey you make is from your head to your heart. And to get out of this, it's going to be things that you're going to have to do experientially, okay? Breath work, this sort of boundaries, yoga, Pilates, going to AA meetings, COVID meetings. These are experiential things. You can't read your way out of trauma. You can't. Understand that the key is here, experiential. Longest journey you ever make is from your head to your heart, not to the moon and not to the ocean. This is the beautiful journey, okay? So this is narcissistic abuse we're talking about. If you knew one of these people, if you encounter them now, they're around you now, it's experiential. So I'm going to take you from a place, if you will, as we talk about emotional regulation, from dysregulation, which is feeling despair and hopeless. Many of you may in these relationships, many of you feel that way in taking care of loved ones. Anyway, I'm going to take you from a negative one, or I'm going to actually facilitate showing you with emotional regulation. You know, we use breath work now, but you can take yourself from despair to encouragement. You can go from hopelessness to hope. We as human beings can shift the chemistry of our body. This is all found, this work, this trauma work, in our brains. Complex PTSD is actually something that's tattooed in our brains, almost habits. Okay, the concept of neuroplasticity is literally retraining our brain. It's reparenting our lives. That's what complex PTSD healing is about. Okay, it truly is. I'm going to start you off today. I'm going to do some cool things. I'm not sure if my partner's on or not. I mean, if she is, great. If not, I'm going to take this for you, that you can go to WellMed's Emotional Support Response Team website. That's through our charity foundation. You can sign up for daily affirmations. Okay, by the way, the CPTSD Foundation.org also has great texts and things they'll send you daily. If you have an EAP, grab them. If you need a good therapist, look for a trauma therapist on Psychology Today. Put your zip code in. They're fabulous. Codependency Anonymous is great groups to go to. I want you to start, if you're a caregiver, going to as many support groups as you can. They are your support to get out of these toxic relationships. Okay, the CPTSD Foundation, I can't talk about it enough. Realize that. But our website is open to you. We made it open outside of our firewalls. So there are resources, trauma resources, and a lot of things that can change your brain on this healing journey. But right now, as you all know, I'm going to give you what I think is critical, which is a way to calm your roller coaster during the time of saying goodbye and during the time of healing. And while you're a caregiver and being dysregulated, I will say that your breath is the key to everything. I work with cops and firemen, emergency medical technicians. Breath work they use before running into SWAT situations. So they're proactive and not reactive. So they don't get hurt and so they don't hurt somebody else. As a caregiver, you guys are also first responders. Your family first responders. You really do. You run into burning people's homes and stories. So understand breath work works for you like it does for policemen and firemen. It grounds you on 2 feet, transforms your chemistry of your body, and returns control back to you. And we're the only species out there, y'all, that can take this and shift the chemistry of our body. We didn't come from survival of the fittest. We came because our bodies could emotionally regulate, and we co-regulated in communities, which meant we could develop, creative decisions, and communities could grow. You can create safety and be your own therapist when you're feeling dysregulated with a toxic person, in the caregiving situation, or with anybody. You can calm your vagus nerve. I'm going to show you a grounding technique that is less than 80 seconds. Many of you have already do it with me, but those who don't want to do it, I truly believe in your autonomy. You don't have to do it. A grounding technique can be prayer. That's a neural pathway changer. You can do that when I ask you to close your eyes. You go to a safe place you once were, touch it, feel it, and smell it. You can do that. You can also be silent, okay? Or you can also, if you want, picture daffodils, and get quiet and just get comfortable. But I will say this, Dr. Andy Weil, who's an amazing integrative medicine doctor, he literally took 478 and went around the country and did research on it. And he realized for caregivers and professional caregivers and people, it could calm you in the moment, shift your chemistry. And if you do this 4 to 6 times a day, you can start emotionally regulating your brain. And if you're in a toxic relationship or leaving a toxic relationship, it's a roller coaster of emotions. You need to push back and tell anybody, I need to take 80 seconds to do Dr. Weil's 478. So mind you, I'm going to do it for you now. You can listen to me. I'll show you how to do it. But Dr. Weil's on YouTube. So after this, you can go straight to YouTube, keep this with you. And this emotional roller coaster, some of us have to be in these sort of toxic relationships until we figure out how not to. Some of us have to be in uncomfortable, dysregulated. If you go to YouTube, put 478 and put Andy's last name, W-I-L, he does a 2-minute video and it's wonderful. Okay, but here how we're going to do it now. I'll show you how my way is. He does one thing. He asks you to put a tongue on the top of your mouth, which is beautiful. I'm not going to ask you to do that, but here's how we do 478. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. But when I do, I'm going to ask you to breathe in. I'd like you to breathe in through your nostrils like this. It's refreshing. It's calm. It allows you to feel in the moment, like to be here now. Doesn't have you dysregulated like you're under somebody's spell. You're here. Okay. Then I want you to keep it in your mind for 7 seconds or up to 7 seconds. Okay. You can picture peace or serenity or daffodils or butterflies or guided image, or just stay quiet for 7 seconds. The point is, when you exhale, I want you to exhale loudly like this. For 8 seconds. That is the secret sauce, which triggers the vagus nerve response. Okay, the vagus nerve goes from the cortex of your brain into your healing organs, into your gut. The key out of toxic relationships, the key of all that is literally to befriend our neurological system, because complex PTSD dysregulates it, gives us fight, flight, freeze, and fawn response. Okay, if we start befriending it, incorporating this in our day, breath work, yoga, Pilates, doing these experiential things of stress reduction. All right. We're going to befriend our nervous system. All right. Pretty easy. Okay. We're going to do it 4 times. And then we're going to come back to our meeting. And I'm going to say thank you and be privileged that we're able to sit here together. And I'm more than happy again to give you places to follow up. But let's all close our eyes right now. Let's try 478, or if you want the alternative. Okay. And with your eyes closed, put your feet on the ground. If you have shoes on, feel the floor through your shoes. And if you're barefooted, feel the floor through your feet. And with your back upright with respect, let's do 478, simply 4 times together. Okay? All right, let's breathe in now through our nostrils for 4 seconds. Let's keep it. Let's swish it around for up to 7 seconds. Let's blow out with passion for 8. Breathe in the calmness again for 4 seconds. Let's keep it. Let's swish it around for up to 7 seconds. Let's blow out the anxiety for 8. Breathe in for 4. Keep it for up to 7. gust over 8. Last time. Breathe in the calmness for 4 seconds. Keep it. Swish it for up to 7. Now, let all the anxiety that might have arose from me. With your eyes still closed, please. Feet on the ground. Go inside your body and just scan it. Literally in less than 80 seconds. Okay. The world can be a vampire, y'all. That was said in Smashing Pumpkins. I remember that song vividly. It can. It can steal your energy. But when you close your eyes like this, go inside, you can actually shift the chemistry of your body. And that's what you just did. You produced oxytocin, which went literally to your neurotransmitters. Okay, it does. And you change the chemistry from one of dysregulation to one of regulation, all on your own. The miracle of the human body. And when you're ready, open your eyes and come back to our session and understand that this is an act of self-compassion. This is emotional regulation. There's a whole lot of other emotional regulations I mentioned to you can do, okay? But it's an act of self-compassion, and a moment of self-compassion changes your day. A string of moments like this changes the course of your life. So in addition to our website, drjamie.com, go to Dr. Germer's site too. He's at the Mindful Self-Compassion Institute in Austin. It's great. If you want to get us at WellMed, there's our absolute email. But understand, I'm deeply privileged to be here with you. I want you to be the change you want to see in others. This is not going to be easy. There'll be 3 steps forward and 2 backwards. It really will. So take your oxygen first, okay? Know that better things are coming. I'll look forward to seeing you next month when we'll talk about let's go from hell to heaven using the CPTSD healing. And just know that better things will be coming. So keep calm, and just breathe. Evelyn, it's all yours.
Wow. Thank you. Such incredible information and presented so concentratedly. It was wonderful. I'm still thinking about it. I'll be thinking about it for a long time. So I want everybody to know you'll be getting a questionnaire if you haven't been on the line with us before. This questionnaire will come with some resources I've copied down from Dr. Jamie's presentation. And I think that if you have not signed up, registered with WellMed Charitable Foundation, you need to do that, or otherwise you won't get the resources with the questionnaire. And in order to sign up, you just call WellMed Charitable Foundation. It's Minerva, 866-390-6491. And if you have any other kinds of caregiver questions, she's pretty on top of it. We appreciate you filling out the questionnaire. And when you do, you'll get the monthly calendar. And I can tell you, we have 13 presentations scheduled for the month of April, and they're all incredible. You know, experts across the field, lots of information on dementia, lots of information on, behaviors with dementia. Of course, Dr. Jamie's at the end of the month. We've got one in Spanish, which is Dementia and Family Dynamics with Dr. Pradario, and that one will be on Tuesday, April 11th, if you'd rather hear your presentation in Spanish. So I just want to thank you all so much. Lots of people have said thank you, Dr. Jamie. I'm sure you saw that. And I want to thank you caregivers for being here with us. I want to apologize that we didn't have time for questions and comments, but you can see that maybe next time we will, or maybe down the line, because there was just so much to present today. It was all very interesting. I'd like to thank the WellMed Charitable Foundation. I'd like to thank the caregivers for what you do every day. You are the backbone of long-term care. And with that, I'm going to stop the recording. And Dr. Jamie, thank you for an incredible presentation.
Thank you all. Be kind to yourselves, please. And you will win the war. Don't worry about the battle. And it's 3 steps forward, but have forgiveness, have compassion for yourself. You are right. They are not. That's all I can tell you. I'll see you next month.
Thank you.